Hey, bud. Up here. What day is it? Huh? What day is it today? Is it Wednesday?
Waiting on parts. Waiting on parts kind of stymies things just a bit. But instead of pointlessly checking and rechecking tracking numbers and calling and recalling local parts stores, I remembered that I do indeed have some parts that I've long had and not needed to use. The catch is, I've never needed to use them because somehow the original parts that came with Moles when I got her haven't failed yet. So what am I talking about? Wheel bearings. These babies should not be underestimated in terms of importance. At best, there are only 2 parts of your bike touching the ground at a good time. One if you're ripping some wheelies, so it's all the more important then. Of course, I mean your wheels. So the hardware that are keeping them attached to your bike and working correctly is really of the utmost importance. For this job, we need a few things. A collection of handy tools, a front wheel and matching bearings, and some coffee to aid in the sanity factor. It's not a tough job once you've done it a time or two, but there are a few tricks to ensure that you don't damage anything, so stay tuned. While the coffee brews, let's go outside and check the front wheels to see which of these bearings we're changing today. All right, coffee's on. We want to check which wheel, because I've got 2 wheels, and like I said, the original parts for Moles have never failed, and there's a good chance that they're still good. Of course, I want to check those first because I'm quite positive that the other wheel needs to be done. I'm more likely to ride Moles. If that's the wheel that needs something replaced, I should do that one first. I think that's pretty obvious, so let's go check them out. So the way you check if the wheel bearings need to be changed or not, the simplest way effectively is you're going to try and rotate the wheel, not the wheel as it rotates, but kind of, you know what? Let me get a wheel to show you. 1 second. Okay, so we got a wheel here. Yep, all right. Now, the wheel obviously rotates like this. What we want to see is when the axle is going through the wheel here, the axle is going through the wheel, does it rotate? So when the wheel is in place, does it move like this?
Editing room pirate here. I'm not sure exactly why my brain wasn't working that day or why I was unable to articulate the concept of tilting and instead just decided to use the word rotate in about 10 different contexts. My apologies, but what I mean here is when the tire tilts in relation to the axle. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Rotate.
And what that will tell you is if there's any play in the bearings that ride against the axle. Because if there's any play in there, then you want to change them. So, I hope that made sense. So the easiest thing to do with a bike where the wheel is in place is to just get the wheel off the ground so that you can try and wiggle it either direction and see if there's any play on it. So that's obviously best done by getting the jack. Let's get the jack. Yeah. So we're just going to lift the bike up. Okay, so the back wheel is always easier to check because the wheel doesn't rotate like this. When you're trying to check the front wheel, you kind of have to do your best to immobilize the front here. So if you have a second person to just hold the handlebars or the forks here or something, then you're laughing. But if you don't, then it's just a matter of hanging on to the fork, you know, positioning the wheel, seeing if you have any play by trying to push and pull the wheel this direction against its axle. And as always, she's in good condition. I don't get it. Now, one thing to know is you're not going to get as much of an indicator if your brakes are pretty tight. And these brakes are pretty tight. So I could bleed the brakes a little bit, is what I could do, so that I loosen up the actual caliper, give myself a little bit of wiggle room, and then see if it holds, because there's a good chance that there is play in it, if there is, and I'm just not able to overcome the clamping force of the caliper. But you know what? I plan to do these wheel bearings and those wheel bearings anyway once the engine is completed. So I think the best bet is to just take the other wheel and use that one as the example today. It's just easier. I can get the wheel and we can go and get to work. So let's do that. Dexter, come on in.
All right, let's get to work.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna do things, we should do it right. Coffee first. All right, now I'm ready. First things first, we gotta finish getting the axle out. It's decided to stick. It should be remedied pretty easily though. This is for another video. You don't need to be here right now. Okay, there's the odometer thing. Camera. There we go. Excellent. So that's those two things taken care of. Now, as you'll see on this side, this just comes off. That's the spacer. And then that has to come out. But anyway, what we're gonna do is worry about this side right now, because we have a little clip here that we need to get out. Yeah, that's step one. Actually, that's a lie. Okay, let's take a step back. So this is the kit that we have. So let's find out what the kit comes with. So we have an idea of what parts we're going to be replacing and what parts we need to keep. So obviously these are our bearings themselves here. All right. And then we have two seals that are the same size and one larger seal. So it looks like this seal here is this guy. And then these two are going to be, one is probably going to be an extra. Because chances are it's just going to replace that seal there. It's just not going to look quite the same because they're not the exact same kit, evidently. But we can definitely pull this seal out without having to worry about destroying it. So let's just get that out. Okay, so you keep using different tools. Really, there's usually some kind of proprietary tool that you can get to do most of these things. They're almost always unnecessary, just because they're unnecessary. They're so limited use that unless like you have a business that specifically does this, you're a mechanic that repairs people's bikes regularly, then having those tools is pretty silly, I think. At least if you spent good money on them. Okay, but I'm not thinking things through here. I know I'm overthinking something and there's an easier way to do this. I just can't think of it right now. Yeah, it's just a typical seal, so it shouldn't be difficult. It's just gummed in there with years and years of buildup. There we go. All right. So that one's done. Super, super cool, important tip is don't throw these away. Main reason is because you don't want to be smacking or hitting the new ones with anything that can wreck them, but you also want to make sure that they're seated really, really nicely and snug. So one of the best things to do, both with the bearings that we're going to pull out and the seals, is to keep all of them, because they are effectively the same size and they're made out of non-marring material. So you'll be able to just line the old one on top of the new one and tap it in. Same thing with the bearings and the whole work. So it's really smart, at least until the job is done, to not throw these away. Even though you know this is a used part. You're never going to use this again. I just pried it out of there, so it's done for. It's not going to seal anything moving forward. It still has a use. So we'll keep that. Then we just take out the drive, whatever that's called. So now we're down to the bearing already right here, which is great. And as you can see, there is a spacer in here. So you may or may not be able to see that there. Awesome thing about this spacer right now is that there's enough play in it that I can move it past the surfaces. And that's so important because you're going to be tapping the bearings out from the other side. So if this spacer inside has become seized or stuck and you can't move it in either direction, it becomes very, very difficult to pull these out. You have to get a puller. So you have a puller that kind of sits in there, expands in there, and then pulls it out. That's the normal way to do this. But you can tap them out if you're lucky enough that there is no spacer, or the spacer has enough play that you can move it to either side and put something in there that you can tap the bearings out with. So let's flip it over though, because we still need to get this side opened up here. So, okay. So that's the seal out. And that's my concern right there, is they don't really appear to be the same size. This seal is bigger. These just sit in there and have play. So I may need to go get this parted. That's super disappointing. But we'll find that out towards the end. We can still continue with this job for now. That's one of the problems with some of these generic kits. Here, I'll show you. So this kit is supposed to be good for all of those listed. 450 SC 82 to 86. So they claim that all of the Nighthawk 450 SCs are going to be covered by this from 82 straight through to 86. This one should be from an 83 or an 85. I can't remember off the top of my head. A knocking pin thing. Not finding. Well, that's annoying. I have a tool specifically for this. I just don't happen to know where it is off the top of my head. So, that kind of sucks, but we have other options. A really good one too is just a screwdriver with a exchangeable bit head. So we just want to double check, because I can't remember now already, if there is clearance on the other side, and there should be, because we've taken at least a seal out. Oh yeah, well, it's because of everything there. Soften up these impacts a little bit. So then it's a matter of kind of trying to wedge the edge of your striking surface with the inside rim of the bearing so that you can do that on one side, and then you move to another side and kind of continue the process around. And then check your progress. And it's really just a matter of repeating that over and over and over again until you get the bearings to play. Oh, you can hear beads inside the wheel. So that one's not moving at all yet. What we're gonna do is just flip this over real quick, see if I can get some early movement on the other side, because I'd love to show you guys. Kind of looks like maybe I got some play on there. I'm not sure, to be honest. No, not yet. Well, maybe a little, maybe a little. Okay, so I will continue this for a while. Look at that, we're already basically surfacing out. So I just have to prop the wheel up. One down. And then there's the spacer. It's another day. I couldn't wail on this thing while Chelsea tried to sleep, so we'll pick it up from here. This is where having one that's in poor condition, your old one, still around, comes in really, really handy. Because if you see, as long as I keep that centered and I tap this guy, it's going to evenly displace the pressure along all the surfaces there. So I can still use a rubber mallet just to be extra safe. But I'm going to hit this one so that it evenly presses it down. You can even throw your axle in to make sure that you're perfectly even. Like that. So then you just work yourself around. I'm going to use the metal mallet because I'm quite confident in how this works. But you don't have to, for sure. Just do be sure to move around the part.
don't try and hit it all on one side. If you have a very, very large thing, like another thing that I've seen people do is take this and then a sledgehammer and basically balance it on top and then tap, 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 because then you're going to press down pretty evenly across everything. But if you're using a smaller surface area, then just do be sure to move around the part. Okay, so that obviously needs to get in further because there's also space for that. So it needs to go down again that far. So I get into this issue where I could sink this one in so far it becomes difficult to remove.
An eternity later.
Ah, there we go. All right, and then as a final confirmation,
first off, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. I hope this video finds each and every one of you making the absolute most out of the rest of 2020. For those of us that can't be with family this year, remember, they're only a phone call or text away. Let's look out for each other and stay safe. Going into 2021 is an exciting prospect. I think many of us are ready for this dumpster fire of a year to come to a close. But with any luck, we'll be able to look back and see the good things that happened this year as well. For myself, we've had our fair share of heartbreak this year, but focusing on the positive, I've got to move out to gorgeous British Columbia. We grew our family just a little bit more, and I finally, after years of just thinking about it, took the plunge on YouTube, and I haven't regretted a moment of it. I love making these videos. I love filming things and then actually putting it to use for myself for a change. But I've also had some time recently to think about where I want this channel to go and what kind of content I want to make. Don't worry.
Don't worry. I'm not gonna do
anything that changes this channel too drastically. You may not know this about me, but I really, really like motorcycles and the crazy trips that you can take on them. But for the people that have known me for many, many years, they would tell you I've spent a heck of a lot of time rambling and ranting about something completely different. I was given a copy of The Fountainhead when I was 11 or 12, and I've been hooked on philosophy and being an opinionated schmuck ever since. Now, this channel isn't about to concern itself with ethics and politics, but if you're curious at all about following me over on my second channel, the link will be in the description below. And hey, at the very least, I'll probably be a bit cleaner and better dressed over there too. So thank you everyone once again for an amazing first year on YouTube. I'm looking forward to whatever this next year brings. And if you like the content that you're seeing on this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you have any repair jobs that you want to see, or you just want me to get back to the bike rebuilds, drop a comment and let me know below. And as always, ride safe and ride fun, and we'll see you on the next video. Me, bub?